Class is in session, hitting the books, college basketball for Friday, February the 21st. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack with you for your weekend preview edition of the show. We'll talk the two big power conference games for Friday night, Marquette, Villanova, and a great battle in the state of Michigan tonight. Michigan State, Michigan, clearly the main event on the card tonight. And then we'll look ahead to Saturday and a lot of the marquee games taking place. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start with Marquette. Villanova, little Big East, Friday night Big East action. We've got Marquette, 1.5-point road favorites, 141.5 the total here in this game. You've got Marquette playing some really good basketball right now. They've turned it up here as we've gone through the month of February. This is often what you see with Shaka Smart. Team plays well later on. They're coming off a beatdown earlier this week over an outmanned Seton Hall team. They're playing really well, Marquette, right now. Don't really want to step in front of them. They have dominated Villanova as well. This has been certainly a series that has been in the Golden Eagles' favor. And I don't trust Villanova. I think Marquette is the better team. I'd lean to Marquette here. Villanova did get a home win against St. John's, so it is important to note that they have shown that they can step up and beat one of these better Big East teams on their home floor. But consistently, have they been able to do that? The answer is no. And I don't want to get in the way of Marquette with the way they've been playing really at both ends. So for me, it's a lean Marquette. Don't know if I get involved or bet it. Maybe just a small play on Marquette, but that would be the way I would go here in this game. C-Mac, what do you think here in the Big East?
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with this game. Just because Marquette, kind of after a few bad losses and they've had back-to-back wins, Villanova's just kind of what they are. They're 15-12. He talks about how they bid the big win finally against St. John. So they do play better here at home. Can the threes drop for them? I don't know. I just think Marquette's a little bit better. So I lean Marquette, but yeah, this was nothing I wanted to bet here.
All right, Michigan State, Michigan. This is your Friday night Fox game, national television. Michigan State and Michigan should be a great one. Battle for first two in the Big Ten, I should say, right now. Michigan, 3.5-point home favorites, 150 the total in this game. I mean, can't even be shocked anymore. We really shocked? I shouldn't be, that Michigan State is doing what they often do. Mid-February, late February, March, they get playing their best. Every single year, Tom Izzo gets this team starting to play their absolute best basketball. This has been a terrific week for Michigan State. They go on the road at Illinois. They beat the Illini. They come back home, maybe a potential letdown spot, a Purdue team that, Purdue's struggling, but still a good team. And coming off a loss, you would have expected Purdue's best game, and it still was not good enough to beat Michigan State as the Spartans get another solid win, 75-66. They're playing really well right now, this Michigan State team. He's also done very well, Izzo, against Michigan. Michigan State is 6-3 in the last, 5-2 rather. 5-2 in the last 7 meetings over Michigan. This is a Spartans team that's playing some really good defense right now. It's probably why they've gone under now in 6 of their last 7 games. They got bigs. They sometimes struggle at times as far as their backcourt and their perimeter game. But the one thing they do is they've done a good job, as far as protecting the ball. And Michigan doesn't always do that. Michigan can get a little haphazard with the basketball and turn it over a bit too much. It's been a good matchup for Michigan State. They're in great form. Izzo as a dog catching points is not usually something I'm interested in betting against. So I am on Sparty here and taking the 3.5. Total is interesting because Michigan's going to try to push this in transition, get up and down the basketball court. And they certainly are a team I like to bet overs with. But Michigan State's really kind of gone the other way. Their defense has picked up. They've been trending under. So I think it's kind of a tug of war here when it comes to the total. But I like the Spartans here, plus 3.5. What do you think here, C-Mac? A good one in the Big Ten on Fox tonight.
Yeah, our guy Ross Pitts. It's more Michigan State doesn't shoot the three better. Michigan is a little bit better, 36% on the year, and they shoot though a lot more of them than Michigan State. It doesn't take a ton. They are better defensively. I get why this has come down. Seems like if Michigan has their way, maybe this could get over. I'm not going to mess with this total at all. But I thought the 3.5, 3 points here, I have to lead with Michigan State in this game. I just think they could keep it close. Michigan's talented, though, and they're pretty I don't know, deep. I'd say deep, but I just mean like their scores. They have seems like 5 or 6 guys here, double figures. They got the big guy, Goldens. This should be just a great game. So, and then they play each other in like a week or two, right? I think.
Yes, they do. Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
So
it's a rematch. Yep.
Yeah, a little rematch right after this. So it should be a great game. Here, maybe bet live as well.
All right, we're both leaning to the underdog here, Michigan State, in a time of year where Michigan State tends to start peaking and playing their best basketball. Although that being said, Michigan's had a tremendous season. Dusty May's done a great coaching job. He probably should be a Coach of the Year candidate with the job he's done here with Michigan, showing that it's no fluke. He's just a damn good head coach. Nothing he did at Florida Atlantic was a fluke, and he's showing that right here with Michigan right now. That should be a great game here tonight. All right, next up, we turn our attention to Saturday, and we've got Tennessee and Texas A&M. This is a good one to get the Saturday college basketball slate going, an early noon Eastern tip-off. Two of the good teams in the SEC. Tennessee, 1-point road favorites, 130.5 the total in this one. I'm going to take Buzz Williams over Rick Barnes when he's, a slight home underdog. I'm going to be on that side. Look, Tennessee, as good as it gets at times on the defensive end, but we've seen this before from them at times on the road where that offense struggles a bit, sputters, can't make consistent shots. And that's always something I think could be a hindrance for them, especially when they play on the road and especially when they play on the road against quality competition. Look at Kentucky. They lose by 11 on the road. They lose at Auburn in overtime. They lose at Vanderbilt as a road favorite. Their SEC road track record, Tennessee, continues to be, not that great. And I look at this A&M team. Obviously, down the stretch, they've played a lot better. They had won 5 in a row entering that game against Mississippi State, and they just had one of those nights where, and that's the concern here, Tennessee can guard. If you're going to only shoot, 36% from the floor and 35% from three against Mississippi State, that's on the road. That's not exactly what you want to see against a good defensive team. But I think back home now at College Station, you'll see some more of those shots fall. I'm on A&M here. I like the spot, like the number. And like I said, Tennessee has shown more than enough cracks in the armor against some of the better competition on the road in this conference that I think A&M can get them here at home. C-Mac, what do you think here? Vols, Aggies.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're going to see what this line does tomorrow morning because to me, I think this flips. I just maybe from a +1 to -1 because I think it's a pretty good spot for A&M after the loss they just had against Mississippi State where they didn't shoot the ball well. Two good teams that play defense, kind of lean under. I need to look at the total a little bit. It is low here at 130, but I think it's a pretty good spot for A&M, so I agree.
All right, we both like, and I would too. I mean, it's definitely a game where A&M's kind of been trending a little bit under as well. So we'll see if that continues here in this one coming up on Saturday. All right, this is an interesting one in the Big Ten. This is also an early game, noon Eastern in Madison. We've got Oregon and Wisconsin. Wisconsin 8.5-point home favorites, 153.5 the total in this game. The big concern for Oregon is obviously the start time. This is 9 a.m. Pacific time for a team that's now on the East Coast or at least in the Midwest, but they've already been in the Midwest for a few days. They were at Iowa a few nights ago and beat the Hawkeyes 80-78. I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a great spot to fade Wisconsin. I thought it was a great spot to take Illinois earlier this week. And Wisconsin's just John Tonje, man. This guy is like playing like one of the best players in the fucking country right now. This guy's been spectacular for Wisconsin. He's draining shots left and right, fall away, step back, Jays. Doesn't matter. Everything he shoots is going in the basket right now for this Wisconsin team. John Blackwell, the freshman's been great. Crowell gives them a little size. Klesmit, I mean, this is a really good team. Talked about this over and over when we've mentioned Wisconsin games. This is the best offensive team that they have had in many, many years. It's very difficult to step in front of this team right now. I kind of like the idea usually of Dana Altman or especially teams coached by him, this Oregon team on the road, getting this kind of points. But I don't love the time of this game. I think if it was later in the day, I'd feel better about taking Oregon rather than a 9 a.m. Pacific time start, 12 Eastern here in Wisconsin. And I've lost a couple of times going against Wisconsin. Here's what I do like. I like this over. Oregon still, to me, has defensive concerns. Like, let's be honest, against Iowa, they won because they scored against Iowa, like everybody does. They didn't win because of their defense. They still gave up 78 points and almost blew a lead in the last few minutes. So that'll be interesting to see how this goes. Yeah, Nate Biddle was phenomenal in that win against Iowa, Rick J. It's a great point. The big man for the Ducks, he played really, really well. He's going to need to bring that here because Wisconsin does have some size on the front line. But I like this total. I mean, these Wisconsin games, they keep going over the total. Oregon's not been great defensively in Big Ten play really all season. So I think this game can get up and over the total here. What do you think, C-Mac?
I think it could too. This is an early start time. I always give me a little bit of pause. I mean, Wisconsin's just scoring at will and going over like crazy. It seems like you mentioned Biddle needs to be. I mean, if he could give you 21 and 10,
Yep.
I don't like, but that doesn't really happen. He's more of the 11 and 5 guy or whatever his numbers are. I kind of lean in Oregon here on the points. There's a whole lot of love for Wisconsin. They've just been great. They have been great at home, but I don't know if I get involved here. I gotta look at these a little more in depth.
Yeah, of course. These are games, of course, for Saturday, so it's always important to know. Some of these games we don't have shit completely locked in yet as far as what we're going to actually go ahead and bet. But we're just giving you some of these games. I already know I'm going to be on them, but there's some games where it's like, I'm leaning that way, but I haven't locked anything in yet. This one, I'm pretty sure I'll be on the over because like these Wisconsin games. How many Wisconsin games have I been on over the total on this show of late? And it's been going pretty well. So that's probably the way I'm going to go here. Is more so total than side when it comes to this game. All right, West Virginia and Texas Tech as we move to the Big 12. We've got Texas Tech 11.5-point home favorites in this game. The total sitting at 135.5 across the board. West Virginia, big win for them against Cincinnati, but they didn't cover. Cincinnati with a backdoor cover at the end if you took the Bearcats, plus the points in that game as West Virginia as a 3.5-point favorite wins by 3, 62-59 over Cincinnati. Now they go back on the road where they do have a couple of decent games on the road. They beat Cincinnati on the road. They hung tough and covered in defeat at Baylor. They also lost by 5 at TCU and got blown out by Kansas State on the road. So what are you going to get here from West Virginia? You've got Texas Tech off the loss to TCU, 69-66 in their last game, 13-2 straight up for Grant McCaslin's team at home. They've had some pretty big wins as well. That being said, they were 16-point home favorites against Arizona State last home game, and they only won that game by 5. But before that, they beat Baylor on this floor by 14. They beat TCU on this floor by 14. They beat Oklahoma State by 10, Arizona by 16 at home. So it's been mostly double-digit blowout wins for Texas Tech, and this feels like a Texas Tech spot. Don't know if I'm going to get there laying this many points, but I don't think I want any part of West Virginia here in this spot. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I could take West Virginia in this spot. One thing, we'll see if it gets down to the tournament. So I was doing a little bit of stuff the last couple of days. In the last like 15, 20 years, you want to look at a team, for the most part, the top 20 offense efficiency and defense. Bavano, those are the teams that have basically won it all.
National championship touchdown to net contenders. Yeah.
Yeah, and Texas Tech is right there. I think defense, they're right about 30th. Offense efficiency has been really great. I think they're 7th. So I have all these written down, but they're right there on the border. They played great at home. It does seem like kind of a spot for them. I really don't want to go against them. So I kind of think it's you lay it here or don't play it.
Lay it or don't play it. I agree for this one. It's pretty interesting that West Virginia had been starting to go to the over a little bit, but that last game went back to the under. You would think Texas Tech's going to want to tighten it up a little maybe now after losing to TCU, so maybe this game does stay under. Maybe you lean that way as far as the total here. All right, Iowa State and Houston. Another good Big 12 matchup here. We've got Houston, 9.5-point home favorites. The total here sitting at 134.5 across the board in this game. I'm telling you what, this Kelvin Sampson, we know how great a coach he is, obviously. What a run it's been for him at Houston. I think what he's doing with this year's team might be one of his best coaching jobs. So I don't know if talent-wise Houston's as good as they've been at times in the past, when they're like the Jamal Shed Houston teams, for example. But he's getting everything out of this group, whether it's Jaywan Roberts, Emmanuel Sharp, Milos Uzan, LJ Cryer, the transfer, has stepped in and played well, and he's really started to shoot the ball nicely for Houston in the last several games. I mean, just an impeccable coaching job by a guy that is one and has been for years one of the best coaches in the country. And look, this Houston team is really starting. Like I said, their offense is starting to heat up, and it's also why we think of this Houston team, one of the best defensive teams, the team that you want to look at under the total. Believe it or not, they've now gone 5-1 to the over. This Cougars team in their last.
I know I haven't touched their totals lately. I was looking, even the one last week, it was at this number. I had to stay off. Yeah, it went over.
It did go over the total. You look at the meetings between these two teams. They played each other 3 times last year. It's the first meeting this season. Iowa State won at Hilton. Not a surprise. One of the best home courts going. Houston got him back with the win at the Toyota Center, the Fertitta Center, I should say, here in Houston. And then in the tournament, the Big 12 tournament, Houston was annihilated by Iowa State, 69-41. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I don't want to lay 9.5 with Houston. They're playing great. Iowa State on the road has had issues at times, losing to Arizona, losing to West Virginia, losing to Kansas, and that Kansas loss looks really bad because of what Kansas has done ever since. So I don't know if I get involved in the side, but do we maybe, just maybe, see the pendulum swinging here a little bit and maybe lean over 134.5 because Houston's been clearing some of these totals. Iowa State, 2 straight games for them have gone over the total. There was 151 in their game against Cincinnati, 144 in their game against Colorado. And they've been shooting the ball better. I mean, they've scored 77 plus in 4 straight games. Houston, their best offensive run of the season the last few games. So I think the over just might get there in this game. Reasonable number at 134.5. CMAC, what do you think?
Real quick, these are the 2 of the teams. Of course, defense still Houston 1, offense 17 since I hit it. Iowa State 11 defense, Urbano 27 offense efficiency. So right there. Yep. I had it all right here because this is where I listed it. I think Houston wins here. This has just been, especially the last couple of years, I think this is a good matchup for Iowa State, though. And even that game, I think Houston won. You were talking about, was it like about 10? It would just cover this number, just to go back, or 8. Sorry, that pushed. I just think it's too many points. I talk about Houston, unless they're red hot shooting. I think Iowa State hangs around here. It's just too many points. So I think I'm going to be on them tomorrow.
Look, Iowa. I love Iowa State, and I'm kind of with you here. I would probably take the 9.5 before I lay it. The only concern
we've seen some stinkers with them on the road, 1 or 2, but they play pretty well on here. Yeah.
But the one thing that concerns me is the last time Houston saw this team, and Sampson's going to drill it in.
That's true. Yeah.
They just got fucking destroyed in the Big 12 tournament. I think it was the championship game too. They just got absolutely obliterated in that game by Iowa State. And, they'll be looking for a little redemption because that's the last time they face these guys. So that's a great game. I'm looking forward to seeing that. One of the better games tomorrow on the Saturday and college basketball slate. All right, Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. We head back to the SEC. For this one, we've got looks like as far as the number here, Ole Miss is a 1-point road favorite. It looks like here in Nashville. The total here sitting at currently 152.5 across the board. This should be an interesting matchup here. You've got Vanderbilt off. Well, they played a good half against Kentucky at Rupp, and then the game kind of got away from them in the second half. Kentucky pulled away and ended up getting the double-digit win and cover over the Commodores in that one. It was a revenge spot for Kentucky because they lost at Vanderbilt earlier in the season. It's now 3 straight losses, though, for Vanderbilt. So looking to bounce back here at home where they still have a pretty good 12-2 record. Ole Miss had won 3 in a row, signs of bouncing back, but they lose at home as a 3-point favorite for the second time this season to their in-state rival. They go 0-2 in the Egg Bowl matchups this year. against Mississippi State. So kind of surprised about that. You've got them off a loss, looking to bounce back. You've got Vandy off 3 losses at home where they've been good. Tough game here as far as calling a side is concerned. What I will probably side a little bit with here is the fact that Vanderbilt has won the last 2 versus Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss, though, is just such the better defensive team. I still think they are, even though they've kind of wilted in that regard. Ole Miss of late. They started out just great defensively. Ole Miss has kind of declined at that end. And we know Vanderbilt struggles to get stops. They've given up, 97, 86, 78, 80, 81, 82 points allowed. Maybe this does go over the total. It's a high number here in the 150s, but I think the over is still very much the way I would prefer in this total. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, when I look at this total, I just think it's a little bit too high. This time of year, some of these lines, of course, are pretty sharp, and I thought it was just maybe, even though it could get there with the over. It's tough with both these teams. At least lately, Vanderbilt, who was just playing so great to start the year, they've lost 5 of 6, and we've seen some of these teams you want to be on that maybe we got to stay off of them here a little bit, Bavano, when they're just kind of limping here to the finish line. I kind of think that with Vandy, I'd like to take them here at home, especially after being their last 2 of those 3 were on the road, I believe. Yeah, Tennessee and then at Kentucky. So it seems like a pretty good spot, but I don't know if it's a ton of value either. So right now it's a pass.
All right, pass for C-Mac here in this one. All right, Georgia and Auburn. Auburn 18, as you would expect, a big home favorite here. 147.5 the total. In this game. Auburn obviously coming off the win against Arkansas, which was not pretty but effective. They had to grind their way to the result in that game, but they do get a 67-60. But if you laid the 16 with them, you didn't even come close to covering the number. They finish up with Ole Miss at home. They should win that, but like I said, Ole Miss is capable. And then they finish on the road against Kentucky and Texas A&M. So there's some big games coming up for Auburn. Meanwhile, you look at Georgia, and this is another spot where it could be sleepwalk city for Auburn, kind of like it was against Arkansas. But man alive, can you trust this Georgia team to step in and take advantage of this? I'm not so sure about that because Georgia blown out by Missouri, blown out by Texas A&M. They lose as home favorites to Mississippi State. On the road, they've been miserable. 21-point loss at Alabama, 30-point loss at Florida, 18-point loss at Tennessee. Go on and on and on, and there is no track record whatsoever of Georgia being even the least bit competitive on the road against the better teams in the SEC. So I don't know if I can touch this game. C-Mac, how about you?
No, I don't think so here at all. I think Auburn takes care of business. This is a massive number. I think maybe if you don't want to lay it, look at their team total. I mean, one thing, that Arkansas game, we saw it, that total was going way down, and Arkansas has been keeping games tighter and more low scoring, and it played out. But this seems like they could really take advantage of your Georgia, maybe even early. Yeah, team total. Look.
Yeah, maybe that definitely. I mean, if you're going to look in their direction, you got to look at it as far as team total. I would prefer that rather than laying the big number. There's no question. All right, we move along, and I don't know. This team that we're about to talk about next. I mean, you're going to trust, really? I mean, I know they're back at Fog Allen here. You're going to trust Kansas laying 15.5 points right now as they take on Oklahoma State, 150.5 the total in this game. Give me the Cowboys, man. I don't even care anymore. Like, okay, they're at home, and it's on the road where things have really been bad for Kansas, but this is an absurd number for a team that's playing as pathetic as they are. At the moment. And I know they're back home, but they've been bad at home covering. Look at Colorado is terrible, and they couldn't cover a number like this against the Buffaloes just recently on their home court. Yeah, this is straightforward for me. Oklahoma State, Kansas can't lay this number right now. They're completely in disarray. Bill Self rumblings of him retiring. He's had enough after the season. Yeah. How the hell do you lay 15.5 with Kansas? Not this better. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, like the spot seems good here for Kansas, but I just don't want my money on a game like this on a Saturday, 15. Oklahoma State playing a little bit better. I wish I had a bigger bet on them, the other day. which I really like. They took care of business against UCF, and they had a big first half. Kind of cruised. I think they were up like 14 maybe in that game. They scored 104, up 13, 53-40. Yeah, they have the rumblings, of Self, like you're talking about, his own personal issues. Everyone hates each other.
I never see him rip anybody anymore. It's almost like he's like, well, here we go, another loss. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I heard there's just
it's anymore.
They're all everyone. Just no one gives a shit. There's just no team going on. Everyone's just like going through the motions. Is what I've heard through Kansas. So I just don't want my money on it. I mean, could Kansas win by 20? Sure, but everything I'm hearing, I don't want.
No, it's got to be in Oklahoma State. I will be on Oklahoma State here. This reminds me of yesterday when some people were trying to say to me, watch out here. I know Moorhead State's been playing bad, but they're due to step up and the line is fishy and all this nonsense. Yeah. And I heard the same shit about Moorhead State that I heard about Kansas. The coach is under fire. I heard there's some dissension behind the scenes with that coach there, Maxwell, and some of the players. They've been awful. They were supposed to be one of the better teams in that Ohio Valley. They've been the Fade City lately, and I know people were trying to talk themselves into Moorhead State yesterday against Edwardsville, and I said, stay away from Moorhead. They are a tire fire. They are a dumpster fire, and that's kind of the feeling I'm getting with Kansas right now. And, of course, Edwardsville took care of business last night against Moorhead State. So, yeah, it's fade Kansas or pass for me right now. All right, next up, we've got Clemson and SMU. We've got Clemson 1.5-point road favorites here in this one. The total here sitting at 146.5 across the board. I was about to say regarding SMU, that was a hell of a win for them against Notre Dame, but Notre Dame also laid an egg against Louisville, which resulted in the tirade from their head coach, Micah Shrewsbury. So that's 2 duds in a row for Notre Dame. How much credit do you give SMU for that? That being said, for SMU to go on the road and just absolutely clock Notre Dame upside the head like that, very, very impressive win for them. This get a lot tougher here, though. This is a really good game. I don't think people realize how no one's really talking about how good Clemson and SMU have both been this season. They are still at this stage of the season, it feels like, still kind of flying under the radar. Clemson's been great. SMU with Andy Enfield, who's taken teams to the tournament before, starting to heat up 6-1 in their last 7 games. This is a really, really good game on Saturday, and I don't think it's getting the attention maybe that it should, but it's a great matchup. I think what the difference here could be is that when you look at Clemson, there's been a couple of times where, away from home, they've stopped. It hasn't been in this ACC conference season, though. Georgia Tech, Pitt, Virginia Tech, NC State, Florida State, they've taken care of business. This will be their most difficult opponent that they have faced during that stretch. But, you look at SMU, they had the bad loss against Wake Forest. They did lose at home against Louisville. Other than that, they've been playing some really good basketball. This is one, though, I kind of think Clemson still could be a bit of the better team here, but I don't know if I'm fully comfortable laying one out because I'm kind of leaning Clemson, and I think they might be favored on the road here for a reason. I do think they might be just the better team by a slight margin, but it's not easy to lay with them as a road favorite against an environment like you're going to get at Moody Coliseum here at SMU. What do you think here, C-Mac? Good one.
Yeah, this should be a good one. I mean, another not great team, but those are just solid wins to go on the road for SMU. I don't know how good they really are. Like, if both these teams, which I think are hitting their shots, this total is just a little high. I think this goes over. I was hoping for like a 143, 444 to jump on this, but and SMU off a huge night, 97 points. But I think Clemson will have success scoring against them. I still don't think they're really great defensively. I think they're all right. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking over here. This should be a good one. Yeah, coin flip, a little bit under radar tomorrow. 25-5 and 20-6. That's me.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Regarding his status, we'll have to see regarding Miller, but it's questionable is the latest on it, is what I'm hearing. I'm looking at the injury report right now, Rick J. Questionable for this game for SMU. So, again, we'll have to wait and see on that as far as his status closer to game time on Saturday. All right, we go back, I should say, to the SEC, Florida and LSU. We've got Florida Gators, obviously a great season they've had, no question about that. Laying 9.5 here in Baton Rouge, 152.5 the total here in this one. You look at this. I'll tell you what. I don't know if LSU showed you how good they were that night or if it was South Carolina showing you how bad they were that night. But where did that come from for LSU? Just a blowout win like that against South Carolina. They followed it up. Good road win against Oklahoma. Maybe they are turning a corner here, but are they ready to handle this Florida team is the question. Florida's won and covered 3 in a row versus LSU. Florida off the demolition over Oklahoma, 85-63. You know what's scary about Florida too is, they had those the escape at South Carolina. They got blown out in a revenge spot on the road by Tennessee. But these last 2 road games, they destroy Mississippi State. They win on the road outright in the jungle at Auburn, which is a very difficult place to play. I know LSU's shown a little blip here as far as improvement, but beating Oklahoma on the road and whipping a bad South Carolina team doesn't compare to the quality of foe they're going to be seeing here in the Florida Gators. I'm not ready to trust LSU yet. I don't know if I'll lay 9.5, but I'm not trusting LSU yet in a game against a team like this. So, C-Mac, what do you think here, Florida, LSU?
Yeah, I don't know if they just have the scores. Maybe they hit big shots, which in these last couple of games where they've won LSU. But I'm tempted. I was a little bit like maybe it's because of the last couple of wins, but man, this 11 or 12, be interested in LSU. I mean, they have played their better basketball here at home. I kind of lean their way. This is one I don't know if I'll get involved here with LSU.
Well, they did cover against Ole Miss in defeat last home game against a pretty decent team. They've also had the blowout loss to Auburn at home.
2?
Yeah, destroyed at home by Texas. That's the one where it's like I look at that Texas loss by almost 30 points at home, LSU, and I'm thinking, how can I trust them here against a team like Florida when I see a result like that? So that's why it's probably just a stay away for me as far as trusting the LSU Tigers here in this game. All right, Kentucky and Alabama, one of the marquee matchups taking place in the SEC on Saturday. We've got currently the number here for this game. There we go. Alabama, 8.5-point home favorites here in Tuscaloosa. And look at this total, 178.5. You cannot make these Alabama totals high enough right now. 178.5 is what we're looking at with this. I'm tempted to go over again, believe it or not. I mean, they just keep finding ways to go over these damn totals. It doesn't matter how high they put them. And the one thing about Alabama with the style they play, push pace, transition, shoot a lot of threes, they leave themselves so vulnerable at the back end defensively, and we see that at times over and over again. It's almost like, we're willing to just try to win games by outscoring teams at all costs, regardless of how much our defense suffers because of it, and we saw it against Missouri. They thought they could get into a firefight with Missouri, and they were proven wrong with a 110-98 loss on the road at Missouri. 3 straight overs for this Alabama team. Like I said, 183, 179, and then, of course, 208 points in the game against Missouri in their last game. So it's almost like, what the hell? You can't make these totals high enough. And the one thing you're going to see here is one team's going to run Alabama. The other team is going to run Kentucky. They play fast, of course, under Mark Pope. There's going to be a lot of possessions. There's going to be a lot of shot making, and it's scary to even at a number like this bet an under because of the pace that this game is going to get played at between these two teams. As far as the game goes, I know it's revenge for Kentucky because they lost at home at Rupp Arena 102-97 to Alabama back in January. That game flew over the total, 199 points in that game. And by the way, 3 of the last 4 meetings with these two teams have gone over the total. So it's revenge for Kentucky. They have won 3 of the last 4 games, covered 4 straight. I just don't know if I can fade Bama off the Auburn loss at home and now a second straight loss on the road at Missouri, because I feel this could be a spot where Alabama does just roll, and if the threes are falling, it can be a double-digit victory. It's possible. So I get it, the revenge spot. You're getting points here. Kentucky in revenge for a home loss in overtime. Or actually, I don't think it was in overtime. It was in regulation, but it was a back-and-forth game. So I get that, taking Kentucky because of that. I don't know. Alabama off 2 straight losses. That does kind of concern me, trying to fade them in a spot like this. So, C-Mac, what do you think here, Kentucky, Alabama?
Yeah, that is kind of big, the back-to-back losses here for Alabama. But I'm going to be on Kentucky. Yeah, this is too many points.
There
You already
you go.
talked about how they
Okay.
lost here. Well, you know me, maybe I was just the Bama. I just they don't play enough D. You know, they do get up and down. They
Get it.
can at times hit a ton of threes and beat teams. But I'll take Kentucky just out, even with the guys they have out, Butler and everything that's going on. They still have plenty of athletic guys that I think keep them in this game. So I'll take the 8.5.
Yep, and you get revenge. You get them getting points on the road. They have covered 4 straight, Kentucky, going into this game.
They've been pretty good on the road. Yeah.
Yep.
Too.
So
decent.
there you go. 8.5 says C-Mac. Take it with the Kentucky Wildcats here in another good matchup. As is this matchup, the forever rivals. Well, I shouldn't say forever rivals because Gonzaga's taken off and bolting for the Big 12 after this year. Big 12 is where they're going. Gonzaga 4.5 point home favorites at the Kennel, 143.5 the total in their rivalry with St. Mary's. Of course, they played a great game just recently at Moraga. The St. Mary's gym and the Gales got the better of the Bulldogs. So you got Gonzaga looking to avenge that loss back home here against St. Mary's, a Gonzaga team that, they started out the season. What's wrong? But they are starting to play some really good basketball here. They've won 5 in a row, and especially the last 2 games. They just absolutely eviscerated, pulverized Pepperdine and Washington State in the last 2 games. A 45-point win. That was a 52-point win against Pepperdine and a 21-point win at Washington State.
They couldn't miss the first half against Washington State. Red hot. Yeah.
No, they certainly were. There's no doubt. But St. Mary's has beaten them 3 of the last 4 times now. If you go back to the start of last year, St. Mary's won here at Gonzaga, 64-62. Gonzaga got him back in Moraga, 70-57. And then St. Mary's beat them in the conference tournament, the WCC tournament. And, of course, St. Mary's got the win just a few weeks ago at St. Mary's. So St. Mary's has closed the gap here. I don't want to lay 4.5 because I feel St. Mary's might be better than Gonzaga this year. That's just my thought when I watch these 2 teams. But do I also want to go against Gonzaga at home in revenge? Because we have to remember last year, Gonzaga lost at home to St. Mary's. They went to St. Mary's in the revenge game and won. So I could see these 2 teams splitting the season series again. And Gonzaga has played really well the last 2 games. So it's probably enough to keep me off taking St. Mary's. I'm probably going to lay off the game as a whole and just be a spectator. It's certainly a very good game. And certainly Gonzaga, with Mark Few, you expect this team to get better later in the season. We're starting to see that. Noli knows says the under. I know the first meeting, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, it looked like early that it was going to go over, and then it just died, the scoring and the pace as that game went on. And
no, this is under. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's – and look, series history, I'm telling you, with these 2 teams, 5 straight unders between St. Mary's and Gonzaga head-to-head. So I think I already know where Connor's going, more so the total maybe in this game.
Yeah, under. Take it. And that dropped a ton in that first game. It was crazy. I mean, when these teams get together, and I kind of love Bavana that they shot the ball just crazy the last 2 games. I mean, like even their free throw, they were like 19-20. I just think the defense comes to play for St. Mary's. Might be some more points than the first matchup, 62-58, but I don't know if there's a ton. So, yeah, I like the under here.
All right, under the total here. And series history that's been – and by the way, both teams in their recent games have been trending under as well, St. Mary's and Gonzaga entering this matchup. All right, next game up is Illinois-Duke. This is another Fox game. This is the Saturday night Fox game. Make note, this is a neutral court game at Madison Square Garden, MSG. Illinois and Duke. We've got Duke 10.5 point favorites, 152.5 the total in this game. I mean, God, I don't love Illinois' form at the moment. I mean, this has been a rough week for the Illini. They lose at home as a decent-sized home favorite in a revenge spot against Michigan State, and then they go on the road. They get just drilled by Wisconsin. And look, the Badgers are playing as well as anybody right now, but this has definitely been a rough couple of games here in a row for Illinois, and it's not going to get any easier now going to New York City here, Madison Square Garden. and taking on this red-hot Duke Blue Devils team. I've been very stubborn when it comes to Duke. I've looked for spots to fade them repeatedly. Sometimes it's worked. Sometimes it hasn't. I did take Clemson against them, and they lost outright on the road to the Tigers. I did fade them, get it with Cal, getting all those points, and Cal did cover. I did take Stanford after that, though, and Duke rolled them by 36. And begrudgingly, knowing Virginia could go ice cold, and that would be enough to not cover. I did take a piece of Virginia at home versus Duke earlier this week. They were 14-point dogs. They lost by 18, 80-62. So I've had kind of a up and down, some win some, lose some kind of recent history betting against Duke, because I still feel like at this stage of the season, you're not going to get value betting on Duke with just how incredible they are. My concern is Illinois' Big Ten form is getting worse, not better. Their defense getting worse, not better. They're scoring, they're turning the ball over more. Yakachonis has kind of cooled off all of a sudden of late. Turnover quotient's going up. They're getting beaten on the glass more often. There's a lot of elements of Brad Underwood's team that are coming unglued right now. And so this may not be the optimal time to be playing Duke with the poor form that Illinois is starting to show. My only hope is that we start to see some signs of some of the games we saw to Illinois early in the season, in non-conference when they were playing quite well, but that's a long time ago. They did beat Missouri in a non-con game. Arkansas, they beat them up. They did have the one loss to Alabama, but maybe this team is just a team that you got to stay away from for now until they show you that they can pick things up. It is a lot of points, and Illinois, if they bring their A game, could they maintain competitiveness here? Sure. But I don't love their form going in here against a team like Duke, who are just very capable at both ends of the floor. Cooper Flagg, of course, an awesome job. Defensively, they're solid. I've got concerns that Illinois might be facing Duke at the wrong time, because I initially, C-Mac, tried to talk myself into taking Illinois and fading Duke one more time here, but it's not an easy decision for me to make. What do you think here?
Yeah, to hit on, this is the last team because they're the best. Duke, 4-1 offense, defense. The other couple here, we had Florida 9-8, that high up this year. We've been on defense. We've been talking about them. And we hit on Auburn. There's only been a couple teams that have won it all. North Carolina, a couple teams, but they were top 5 offense. Auburn 3, and they're right at 30 defense efficiency. So last ones I wanted to throw out there. I was going through it. Yeah, Illinois, the defense sucks. They get beat on the boards. They shoot a ton of threes, and they're just not making them. And you're shooting 30%, and you're shooting 30 a game.
How about you take
not working out for them.
I was watching that Illinois-Wisconsin game. It was driving me nuts. The settling. Take it to the fucking basket and draw some contact.
Take it to the rack.
Free throw line, man.
Yes, I know.
Keep it simple.
I worry. Yeah. Well, in this game, because Illinois games just go over, I like a ton of, but Duke unders, at least with these numbers, they haven't had a ton of the 150. They've gone over the last couple. They were a little bit too low. As these teams do get to the free throw line, so, but I kind of get under here. This is under nothing with Duke, the way they play defense, especially here at home.
Yep.
So this is also or Illinois team total under. I was going to look at in this game.
All right. Next up.
Yeah. This is at MSG, right?
Yes, it is. It is indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
Missouri.
I like unders there.
Yeah, no doubt. That's definitely, especially, in that environment. We talk about the Big East tournament there all those years. A lot of those games can kind of trend under. We'll see if it does again for Illinois Duke. Missouri, Arkansas. Missouri 1-point road favorites, 149.5 the total. Obviously not an optimal Missouri spot. Coming off the huge home win against Alabama. The place was rocking. Mizzou Arena there, Maravich Court, whatever they're calling it. Incredible win for them against Alabama. Place going nuts. The Dennis Gates had to get on the microphone at the end of the game, say, "Don't storm the court." At the end of that victory over Alabama, the kids posing with their coach in the post-game interview after the win. I mean, it's got all the makings of a, hit the wall spot here for Missouri. The question always, though, is can you trust Arkansas to step up and to take advantage of it? I will say this about Arkansas, point spread wise, 5 of their last 6, they've covered the number. It was a hard fought game against Auburn, one of the best teams in the country. number one still at the moment, 67-60. Really gave them a great battle there in that game. Missouri on the road has been more good than bad, but they've also had their blemishes. Like they battled Tennessee pretty well, 85-81, but they also have a bad road loss at Texas on their resume. But this is just such, on paper, tough spot, tough turnaround for Missouri after the huge win that I'd probably have to lean Arkansas, even though I know in my heart of hearts Missouri's the better team, and I'll take Gates any day over Calipari, but just not a good spot for Missouri, and that worries me. C-Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a pass for me here. Arkansas off the back-to-back losses. Can they step up and play well here at home? We mentioned earlier their last 4 or 5 games have gone under. This first matchup just got over this number. It's right here. I think if the shots are going, like, can Missouri kind of dictate at the pace they want? Because I think this could creep over. Just Arkansas games have been going on under. I don't know if I get there in the end.
Yeah, the total's in a good spot. It's going to be close to that number. I lean slightly over because I think Arkansas at home is going to shoot the ball a little bit better. Let me see what Missouri's games have done on the road. I think there's a lot of them. Yeah, they've been an over machine on the road for the most part.
On the road.
So I'm kind of leaning over as well. But like I said, you're going to need Arkansas to step up and shoot better offensively, see if they can do that. All right, our last game for our Saturday previews, BYU and Arizona. We always like to give you a West Coast matchup. We'll give you this one. Arizona here at the McHale Center in Tucson, one of the better home venues in the country. 7.5-point home favorites, 152.5 the total here in this game. I mean, my first thought is over. When I look at these two teams and the way they're both scoring right now. Look at BYU all of a sudden. 80 points at home against Kansas State, was ripping it up before they went into Provo. BYU put an 80 spot on them. 91 against Kansas. And I know Kansas stinks right now, but still BYU lit them up like a Christmas tree in February. And then you flip it around to Arizona, and I know they've gone under in 3 straight, but on their home floor here in McHale, they've been lighting it up lately too. They put 86 against Iowa State, 82 against a very good team defensively like Texas Tech. They hit the wall offensively in their last home game when they lost to Houston. But we're talking about a Houston team that's one of the better defensive teams in the entire country. I think Arizona, I still don't fully buy into BYU defensively at times. And I know they obviously completely bottled up Kansas. But like I said, Kansas has major, major problems. Going on the road, can they do that? Because BYU gave up 84 points in a road loss to Cincinnati, recently. So, and Arizona, too, in this particular situation, in a spot where, they're going to want to make amends for losing that last time they played here at McHale against Houston. So the over is the first thing that comes to mind here in this game. The side's a little bit trickier because Arizona had been rolling. They lost 2 in a row there to K-State at home on the road and then Houston at home. But they bounced back. They beat Baylor. I thought it was a great spot for them. And BYU is starting to roll. But, you look at these road games, Utah, Colorado, UCF. They won 2 of those 3. They lost to Utah. They beat West Virginia. Okay, but they got blown out at Cincinnati. None of those teams are as good as Arizona. So this is a proving ground for BYU on the road away from home. Can they get it done? So it's a tough side for me. But I like this over more than anything in this game, late night Saturday. C-Mac, what do you think here? BYU, Arizona.
This game's a wait for me. I mean, BYU's playing better, but I take that like that's how they play a lot, like at home, where they have those big wins, and usually they just shit the bed.
And I don't always like betting on teams the game after they win a game so easily like that. Like everything was just so easy for BYU against Kansas the other night. I don't always like backing teams after that.
Yeah, this seems like a rough spot. One thing, maybe Arizona first half. You talk about the total. I think it could get over. They should be able to eat though inside. Arizona not the best team from 3. I think that could be a problem during the tournament. Don't have a ton of shooters, but they get to the rim, they get fouled, they get to the free throw line, Babano. So they should have plenty of success against this BYU team. So maybe their team total is probably going to be right at 80, I think, in 79, or just maybe first half Arizona.
I just realized, and I totally missed this when I initially did my look into this game for the show today. This is the angle that's been money for me, CMAC, in this game. The home team lose in the first game in the conference against that team, and BYU lost at home to Arizona 85-74
Yeah.
earlier
But
this month.
can
And now
BYU
they're in revenge
do
on
it?
the road getting this angle has been go look at last night, all the teams that covered in this angle. Northridge, what they did against Irvine in the late night hours. They had lost at home to Irvine. They went on the road at Irvine and they won outright as a 7.5 point dog in that game. There's countless examples of it last night where when you lose the first game against a conference opponent at home, and then in the rematch, you're on the road and you're getting points as an underdog. It's crazy how good that angle's been all season, for years, in fact, how good that angle's been, but especially of late. And BYU fits that angle here, plus 7.5, if you trust them. So that kind of has me shifting a little to leaning BYU, but because that angle's been really strong. Doesn't always cash, but boy, it's been definitely better, not much better than 50%. I will tell you that. This late season angle of the home loss, and then you get that same team again on the road, and especially when you're an underdog, and that's the case here with BYU. All right, great stuff. There you have it. That's your Friday and Saturday college basketball preview. Before we get to best bets, anything on the mid-major games from Friday, CMAC, that we didn't touch on? Obviously, a lot of Ivy League, Metro Atlantic basketball, Horizon League basketball on Friday nights. Anything you like there. And we do have one pretty good game in the A10 as well, Dayton and Loyola Chicago. But anything else on Friday that you like?
Yeah, I'd like to see if Loyola Chicago can get it done here, but I don't love it. I have the under Fairfield Rider in this game. That is my best bet. Bowling Green here, I think, can hang around the 8. I still don't
That
just
game
trust
started already, by the way. I should point
Toledo.
that out.
Oh, just tipped.
Bowling Green and
Oh,
Toledo.
yeah, just tipped 3.
Yep.
But that was it really for me. I kind of like Sacred Heart. I don't.
That's another one. That's the angle. Sacred Heart lost at home.
It's them or nothing.
Now they're a road dog in the revenge spot. Yep.
And they've been better on the road.
Yeah. And Merrimack is not playing well right now, and they're not covering numbers as favorites either. Merrimack.
No, they shouldn't be. They should never be laying. No. Shit. If they could win by 10, sure. But yeah. But that was it. For Friday. Here, we'll touch on real quick for a guy woo Kenny Woo. TCU or VCU's flat better here. The line's big, and they've kind of owned George Mason. I like this George Mason team. I like how they played on the road. But man, I like them a little bit with the points. I got to look at that game a little bit more, but I think they can hang around tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll give you. I like St. Peter's is the angle too. St. Peter's lost at home to Mount St. Mary's. They're in revenge on the road as an underdog, getting points now at St. Mary's. I like St. Peter's plus the 4.5 there against Mount St. Mary's. I am on Loyola Chicago. Just such a good home team, +2. I'm not sure they're better than Dayton, but man, they play so well at home. I'm on Loyola Chicago there. Niagara Siena, a little bit on the over there. I took Canisius plus all the big points. I mean, that's a big number. I'm always interested in a double-digit underdog in that conference. It's just almost death laying double digits in the Metro Atlantic, and this goes back years. I like over with my Manhattan and Iona. Same thing with Cleveland State and Detroit. I like Northern Kentucky's form. Wright State's kind of floundering right now. So Northern Kentucky, that's another one I think could go over the total. Harvard. I'm actually going to take a shot with Harvard here against Princeton. That's the angle, too. Harvard lost at home to Princeton. Now they're a road dog in the rematch at Princeton. That's been a good angle, as I said. Oakland IPFW, I agree with the over move there. Cornell, I'm taking the big red and the big points with the big red in that one. It's just a few too many for Yale, in my opinion. Obviously, they're trying to maintain their hold of number 1 spot in the Ivy. That's a lot of points there, in my opinion, there with that one. You mentioned Sacred Heart. I like them against Merrimack and Kent State. Kent State against Miami. That's another one with the angle. Kent State lost at home. Upset. They were upset at home by Miami, Ohio earlier this season. And now they're in revenge and a slight road underdog against Miami O. And I like the way Rob Senderoff's team is playing right now. They're really playing some good ball. They're on a roll right now, the Golden Flashes. So I think they can go on the road and beat Miami O in that game. And Young's, I was going to save it for best bet because it is my best bet. I will save it for best bet. Tomorrow, Daryl Turner says he likes the over with Louisville. And I'm never going to say no to an over with Louisville. Their games are always a threat to go over the total. The question is going to be, does Florida State score enough? Because, look, they struggled against Miami, in their last game to score. And if you're struggling with Miami, that's the concern. Louisville might have to do their part. Maybe Louisville team total over might be just a little bit better there for that game. All right, let's wrap this up. Connor Mack, you can repeat it. It's Fairfield Rider under your best bet, right?
Yeah, Fairfield Rider under 140. Two slowest teams, 335, 302. They don't hit shots either. They're not the best defensively. But, man, they don't get to the free throw line. Because this is one I was going to look first half. But, man, these teams don't get there at all. They have to just be red hot, I think, scoring the basketball. So that's an under. And Saturday, I was going to go back to the under St. Mary's Gonzaga, but we already gave it. Kentucky, plus 8.5. At least that's the number right now with it. They hang around against Bama tomorrow.
There you go. All right, Friday best bet, Fairfield Rider under. Saturday best bet, Kentucky, plus 8.5 against Alabama. Friday best bet for me, we're going to take Youngstown State. This might be the hottest team in the Horizon League right now. They're playing some great basketball, minus 115 on the money line. Youngstown State at home. I think the place will be rocking tonight for a Friday night game against Milwaukee. Youngstown State Penguins here. Money line for me against Milwaukee. That's going to be my Friday college basketball best bet. Saturday college basketball best bet. See if we can start with a winner right off the chute. Texas A&M beats Tennessee tomorrow. +1. The Aggies take care of business against the Vols. Too much inconsistency. Too many droughts offensively for Tennessee at times on the road. I think Buzz Williams and crew get them at College Station tomorrow. Texas A&M +1 against Tennessee for my Saturday.
Beautiful.
There you go. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Just a quick shout out to everybody before we shut the show down for the week. Timothy Hake, Oldie, Ross Pitts, Kenny Woo Woo Woo, Colby Beliveau, Justin McKelvey, Gold Jew, Mark A, Rick J, everyone that's been joining us here. We have Nick Alvento going on down the list here. We appreciate Daryl Benton. Like I said, everyone that's been in the chat, we appreciate. Nasty Nate, Daryl Turner. We appreciate everyone joining us here. Noli Knows, of course. Good to see Noli Knows joining us as well in the chat. Shout out to all of you joining us here on a Friday. I think next week we have one more week where we're Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then once we get into March, that first week of March, we might be expanding to 5 days. So stay tuned for that. The expansion of the Hitting the Books show for the month of March. Stay tuned. We'll announce the days in the near future with that. But shout out to everyone. Hit the like button on the way out. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Friday night and a great weekend. Enjoy the games and good luck. Cash some tickets, and we'll see you again next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, for another edition of the College Basketball Hitting the Books show. Until then, class dismissed.